Have you ever wondered why the people you call friends sometimes disappear when you need them most? The truth is hard to face, but it must be faced. No one is truly your friend in the way you hope, in the way you imagine. People come into your life with their own needs, their own desires, their own battles. They may stand beside you for a time, but when the weight grows heavy, most will step back. This is not betrayal, it is reality. And if you don't understand it, you will spend your life disappointed, heartbroken, and weaker than you were meant to be. The harshness of this truth is not meant to push you into loneliness, but to open your eyes. Too many waste years expecting others to carry their burdens, to give them strength to stay forever. Yet life is not designed that way. People drift, people change, people leave. And when they do, you must not collapse. You must learn to be the one person you can never lose, yourself. Because when no one shows up, you must still rise. Think about how many times you felt abandoned, left out, forgotten. Think about the anger that boiled inside, the sadness that held you down. Those emotions come from expecting loyalty where there was none, permanence where there was only passing. But what if, instead of seeing this as weakness in others, you understood it as a signal of strength in yourself? What if every letdown, every absence, every silence was proof that the only person who will never walk away is the one staring back at you in the mirror? That is where power begins. That is where freedom begins. This realization may sting at first, but it is the cure for disappointment. When you stop demanding that others always be there for you, you reclaim your energy. You stop waiting. You stop hoping for someone else to fix the cracks in your life. You become the builder, the healer, the protector of your own path. And here lies the greatest secret. Once you no longer need anyone to hold you up, you will stand taller than ever before. It doesn't mean you shut the world out. It doesn't mean you live bitter or cold. It means you stop mistaking companionship for survival. Companionship is a gift. Survival is your responsibility. And when you master the art of standing alone, you begin to draw others to you, not out of need, but out of strength. People respect those who can walk alone. People follow those who don't depend on applause. People admire the one who builds without waiting for permission. So when you hear the words, "No one is your friend," don't let them break you. Let them awaken you. Let them remind you that the only true constant is you. Let them fuel the fire that says no matter who stays, no matter who goes, you will not bend, you will not break, and you will not stop. Stay with me through this journey, because when you understand this truth fully, you will never again fear being left behind. You will realize you were never behind at all. You were simply being prepared to lead. When you stop relying on others to validate your worth, you unlock a strength most people will never touch. Dependency is the silent chain that keeps countless lives trapped in mediocrity. It whispers you need them to believe in you. You need them to support you. You need them to stay. But the truth is you don't. The only belief that matters is the belief you build within yourself. When you understand that, you are free from the weakness of waiting. Every time you expect someone to rescue you, you hand over your power. You put your destiny in their hands, and when they fail, you feel empty. But it was never their responsibility in the first place. The responsibility has always been yours. The greatest transformation begins the moment you stop asking, "Who will be there for me?" and instead ask, "How can I be there for myself?" That question changes everything. It shifts your mind from victimhood to mastery, from dependence to self-reliance, from weakness to unshakable strength. People are not permanent fixtures in your life. They are passing visitors. Some stay longer than others, but all eventually move in their own direction. If your strength is tied to their presence, then your strength will always be fragile. But if your strength comes from within, then nothing they do can break you. They can leave, and you will still rise. They can doubt you, and you will still move forward. They can betray you, and you will still remain unshaken. That is the mark of someone who cannot be controlled by circumstance. Someone who has built themselves into their own foundation. This is not about rejecting love, trust, or connection. It is about building such a strong core that you never confuse those things with survival. Love can leave, trust can be broken, connection can fade, but your purpose, your will, your inner fire, that is yours alone, and it can never be taken from you unless you surrender it. Once you realize that, you stop fearing loss, you stop fearing rejection, you stop fearing being alone. You begin to understand that solitude is not emptiness, it is power. Think about it. The moments that define you, the moments that shape your future, are never carried by the crowd. They are carried by the decisions you make in silence. The late nights when no one is watching. The choices you make when no one is cheering. The discipline you hold when no one claps. That is where greatness is born. That is where the real you is built. Not in the comfort of company, but in the fire of independence. And here's the reward for embracing this truth. Once you no longer depend on anyone, you become unstoppable. You no longer waste energy chasing approval. You no longer shrink yourself to fit in. You no longer crumble when others fail you. Instead, you rise. You rise with the strength that no one can give you and no one can take away. And that strength becomes your shield, your weapon, and your freedom. So if you feel alone right now, do not see it as weakness. See it as training. See it as preparation. See it as the universe pushing you to discover the one person who will never leave you, the strongest version of yourself. Strength is not found in how many people surround you, but in how unshakable you remain when you stand alone. The world will try to convince you that connection is survival, that being liked, being accepted, being chosen is proof of your worth. But that illusion has trapped countless souls in endless cycles of seeking and never finding. The truth is clear. The crowd will cheer today and disappear tomorrow. Their voices are not your foundation. Their attention is not your fuel. What drives you must be deeper, stronger, untouchable. Every disappointment you've carried was born from misplaced expectation. You thought someone would understand. You thought they would stay. You thought they would support you when everything grew heavy. But life keeps teaching you the same lesson. You must become your own source. The pain you feel is not punishment. It is instruction. It is showing you exactly where you are still dependent, exactly where you must grow. And once you take that lesson seriously, once you decide to build yourself into someone who cannot be broken by abandonment, you rise to a level few ever reach. There is no greater freedom than knowing you don't need anyone to validate your path. Freedom is walking into the storm with the certainty that even if everyone turns away, you will still find your way through. Freedom is refusing to let your spirit bend to the moods, opinions, or loyalty of others. Freedom is standing in silence and knowing that silence will not destroy you because you have already built a voice inside that will not go quiet. This strength does not appear overnight. It is forged in the fire of loneliness, in the weight of rejection, in the silence of being misunderstood. Every time someone let you down, every time someone walked away, every time you were left to face the world alone, life was chiseling away at the parts of you that depended on others to survive. And what is left when the unnecessary is stripped away is the core of who you truly are. That core is indestructible if you are willing to face it. Stop searching for people to carry you. Stop waiting for someone to notice your worth. Stop measuring your value by who claps for you. The applause will fade. The support will vanish. And when it does, you will see the truth. The only opinion that has ever mattered is the one you hold about yourself. If you believe you can endure, you will endure. If you believe you can rise, you will rise. If you believe you are enough, then no absence, no betrayal, no silence can take that away. This is why those who walk alone often achieve what others only dream about. They do not wait. They do not beg. They do not crumble. They decide, they act, they keep moving. Their strength is not tied to fragile ties, but to an unshakable inner core. That is the path you are being called to walk. Not because you are unworthy of friendship, but because you are destined to learn that the greatest friend you will ever have is the unbreakable version of yourself. The world may offer you smiles, kind words, and temporary loyalty, but beneath it all, every person is living for themselves. They are guided by their own fears, ambitions, and survival. This is not cruelty, it is nature. And if you refuse to see it, you will always expect more than people can truly give. When you finally accept that no one exists to carry your weight, you begin to live with unshakable clarity. You stop being surprised by disappointment. You stop being wounded by absence. You stop being crushed by betrayal. Instead, you expect nothing, and in that nothing, you discover everything. There is a deep power in expecting no one to save you. It forces you to dig into parts of yourself you didn't know existed. It forces you to stop hiding behind the comfort of company and to face the raw truth of your own strength. Most people never reach that point. They spend their lives clinging to relationships, friendships, groups, desperate to never stand alone. And because of that fear, they never meet their real self. They never touch the part of them that cannot be broken. They never unlock the depth of power that solitude creates. When you learn to stand alone, you stop begging for attention. You stop chasing acceptance. You stop bending yourself to fit into places you were never meant to belong. You rise above the fragile games of approval, and you start walking a path that is your own. That path is not easy, but it is pure. It is not crowded, but it is powerful. It is not filled with noise, but it is filled with meaning. And when you walk it with conviction, you realize that everything you once searched for in others was inside you all along. This truth cuts deep, but it is also liberating. If no one is truly your friend in the way you wish, then you are free from the endless cycle of disappointment. You no longer hold people to impossible standards. You no longer collapse when they fail to show up. You no longer waste energy resenting them for living their own lives. Instead, you channel that energy into building yourself, into sharpening your mind, into strengthening your will, into creating a version of yourself so complete that no absence can shake it. The mind becomes dangerous when it no longer depends on anyone else to stay alive. Dangerous not in a destructive way, but in a way that makes you untouchable. Because once you stop fearing abandonment, once you stop fearing rejection, once you stop fearing being left behind, there is nothing left to control you. And when nothing can control you, you become unstoppable. This is the point most never reach because they are too afraid of silence. But if you lean into that silence, if you embrace it instead of resisting it, you will find something extraordinary. You will find that you are whole even when you are alone. You will find that the strength you were begging others to provide has been waiting within you the entire time. And once you claim it, you will never again live in fear of who stays or who leaves. You will know that no one is your friend, yet you will also know that you need no one to rise. If you want to rise above weakness, you must cut the illusion that others will walk your entire journey with you. They may walk beside you for a moment, but the path you are on was never designed for two. Every dream that burns in your chest, every vision that keeps you awake at night, every battle that carves you into something stronger, those belong to you alone. To expect someone else to carry them is to set yourself up for constant disappointment. You were not built to lean endlessly on others. You were built to stand, to fight, and to overcome by your own strength. The human heart often craves companionship, but craving quickly becomes dependency, and dependency quickly becomes weakness. When you depend on others to fill your emptiness, you give them power over you. When they are present, you feel alive. When they withdraw, you feel broken. That is not strength. That is not freedom. That is a prison built out of your own expectations. You must break those chains by realizing that no one is obligated to complete you. You are already whole. You are already enough. And until you grasp that, you will keep running in circles, chasing a feeling that cannot be permanently given by anyone else. Stop asking who will stay. Stop asking who will care. Stop asking who will fight for you. The answer has always been you. You are the one who must stay. You are the one who must care. You are the one who must fight. When that truth sinks deep into your spirit, it changes everything. You stop begging for loyalty. You stop waiting for support. You stop fearing loss. Instead, you rise with a fire that says, even if I walk alone, I will not stop. That fire is rare. That fire is powerful. That fire is the difference between those who fade and those who leave a mark. Understand this clearly. The world respects strength, not neediness. People are drawn to those who can stand without clinging, who can shine without begging, who can walk without constant reassurance. The paradox is simple. The moment you no longer need anyone, you begin to attract everyone. But at that point, you don't seek to be filled by them because you already stand full. You no longer need validation. You no longer crave their presence to feel alive. Their company becomes an addition, not a necessity. That is the kind of strength that cannot be shaken. Every tear you shed from being left behind, every ache you felt from being forgotten, every silence you've endured when you wished for support, all of it was preparation for the moment you finally realize that you are not weak for being alone. You are being trained. You are being refined. You are being pushed into a strength that only solitude can give. And when that strength settles in your soul, nothing will ever hold you down again. So stop searching for someone to prove that you matter. Stop waiting for someone to carry your load. Stop hoping someone else will stay when things get heavy. You were not made to be carried. You were made to carry yourself. You were not made to depend. You were made to rise. And the moment you accept that no one is your friend in the way you wish, you unlock the deepest friendship of all. the one you form with your own unbreakable spirit. The sooner you accept that no one is coming to save you, the faster you will rise into the person you were meant to become. Waiting for others to rescue you is a silent form of surrender. It leaves your future hanging in the hands of people who are too consumed with their own struggles to carry yours. This truth may feel heavy, but it is the foundation of freedom. Because once you stop waiting, you start moving. Once you stop depending, you start building. Once you stop begging, you start creating. Every ounce of strength you admire in others was born from moments where they had no one else to lean on. Growth happens when the support system collapses and you are forced to stand on your own. That is where resilience is formed, not in comfort, not in constant companionship, but in the silence of self-reliance. If you continue to shield yourself from loneliness, you will never discover the raw power waiting to emerge inside you. Loneliness is not punishment. It is an invitation to rise into the unshakable version of yourself. The fear of being alone has destroyed more potential than failure ever could. It keeps people clinging to toxic relationships, settling for shallow connections, surrounding themselves with noise just to avoid silence. But that silence is where you find clarity. That silence is where you meet the real you. That silence is where you learn to trust your own voice, your own decisions, your own strength. And once you trust yourself, you no longer collapse when others leave because you know you can handle what comes next. This is why you must train your mind to stop craving what others cannot give. No one can give you endless loyalty. No one can give you unwavering belief. No one can give you the certainty you need to keep going. That certainty must be built by you. That loyalty must be born inside you. That belief must be your own creation. When you build it for yourself, it cannot be taken away. You become untouchable because your power no longer depends on anyone else's presence. Think about how much energy you have wasted trying to hold on to people who are already gone in spirit. Think about how much time you have lost trying to prove your worth to those who never saw it. Think about the pain you've carried because you expected someone else to play a role they were never capable of filling. That is energy that could have been used to sharpen yourself, time that could have been used to build, pain that could have been transformed into strength. The moment you stop pouring yourself into others who do not stay, you reclaim all that energy and direct it toward becoming unbreakable. And when you finally grasp this truth, life changes. You no longer fear solitude. You no longer chase approval. You no longer collapse under betrayal. You see clearly that no one is your friend in the way you once believed, and yet you are not weaker because of it. You are stronger, because standing alone does not mean being empty. It means being full of a strength that is yours, a strength that no one can give and no one can take away. It means walking into the world knowing you are already complete. Strength is born the moment you stop confusing presence with loyalty. Just because someone stands beside you today does not mean they will stand there tomorrow. Just because someone says the right words does not mean they will act when it matters. Human beings are wired to protect their own survival first. And when life tests them, most will choose themselves over you. That does not make them evil, it makes them human. But if you expect otherwise, you set yourself up to be broken again and again. The shift happens when you stop needing anyone's promises to fuel your drive. Words can be empty, presence can be temporary, but your commitment to yourself must be permanent. You cannot afford to let your strength rise and fall with the actions of others. You cannot afford to tie your destiny to the reliability of people who are just as fragile and flawed as you are. The only person who can be counted on without fail is the one you see in the mirror every morning. That realization is not meant to isolate you, but to liberate you. Imagine how unstoppable you become when your motivation no longer depends on support. Imagine how powerful you are when encouragement is optional, when applause is unnecessary, when companionship is appreciated but never required. That is the kind of strength that separates those who wish from those who achieve. Because while others crumble when their circle falls apart, you continue walking forward. While others pause to gather approval, you create momentum without it. While others look around for help, you look within and find it. The mind tries to resist this truth because it feels harsh. It feels lonely. It feels cold. But look deeper, and you will see it is not loneliness at all. It is freedom. When you stop needing anyone to validate your existence, you are free to live by your own design. When you stop begging for loyalty, you are free to focus on what you can control. When you stop expecting permanence in others, you are free to build permanence within yourself. That is the kind of freedom most people never taste because they are too afraid to let go of the illusion. But you must let go. You must stop grasping at hands that slip away. You must stop pouring your strength into proving your worth to people who are too busy proving their own. You must stop waiting for someone to stay when the truth is nothing stays forever. What does stay is the foundation you build within. What does stay is the discipline you train. What does stay is the fire you keep alive. That is what carries you through storms. That is what stands unbroken when everything else collapses. And once you hold that fire, you walk differently, you speak differently, you move through life with a certainty that nothing can touch. You no longer fear betrayal because your faith is not in people. You no longer fear loss because your wholeness is not tied to anyone else. You no longer fear being forgotten because you have remembered yourself. This is where true power begins. This is where you become untouchable. And once you taste that, you will never again beg anyone to be your friend. The greatest strength you will ever know comes when you finally release the illusion that anyone owes you their presence. No one is required to stay. No one is bound to carry your pain. No one is obligated to walk with you through the storms of your life. The sooner you stop expecting it, the sooner you free yourself from disappointment. People can care for you. They can support you. They can even love you. But they will always put their own survival first. And when that moment comes, if you are not rooted in yourself, you will fall. This is why your foundation must be built on inner certainty, not outer loyalty. If you wait for the world to steady you, you will never stand firm. If you depend on others to remind you of your worth, you will always question yourself. If you lean on temporary hands to guide you, you will always feel lost when they let go. But when you anchor yourself in your own strength, in your own will, in your own vision, you stop being shaken by the choices of others. They can leave and you will remain. They can doubt and you will still believe. They can betray and you will still endure. Most people fear solitude because they have never understood it. They see it as emptiness when in truth it is fullness. Solitude strips away distraction. It silences the noise of false friends, empty promises, and shallow connections. It leaves you face to face with yourself. And that encounter, though uncomfortable at first, is where transformation begins. Because in that silence, you discover who you really are. You discover that your strength was never dependent on others. You discover that fear of being alone was only an illusion meant to keep you weak. When you embrace solitude, you learn that you can survive the silence. You can survive the absence. You can survive the emptiness you once thought would break you. And not only survive, you can thrive. You can rise sharper, stronger, clearer than you ever imagined. This is why solitude is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is the fire that burns away dependency and leaves behind unshakable confidence. The mind resists this lesson because it craves comfort. It craves the safety of belonging. But true belonging begins when you belong fully to yourself. You no longer need a crowd to feel alive. You no longer need company to feel whole. You no longer need someone else's voice to confirm what you already know inside. And when you reach that point, you walk through life unafraid of who stays or who goes. You become steady in a world that is unstable. You become certain in a world that is uncertain. So stop running from silence. Stop fearing the moments when no one calls, no one checks in, no one stands beside you. See those moments for what they truly are. Opportunities to rise into the version of yourself that cannot be broken. Every second you spend fearing being alone is a second wasted. Every second you spend embracing it is a step toward mastery. And mastery is what will set you free from the chains of dependency forever. The silence you once feared becomes the soil where your true power grows. In the absence of constant voices, you begin to hear your own. In the emptiness left by those who walked away, you uncover a strength that cannot be shaken. This is the shift that separates the fragile from the unbreakable. Those who need others to define them will always be at the mercy of disappointment. But those who find themselves in the quiet will never again depend on fleeting hands to hold them up. Every great transformation begins with letting go of illusions. The illusion that people will stay forever. The illusion that loyalty is guaranteed. The illusion that others will value your battles as deeply as you do. Once these illusions are gone, reality sets in. And reality, though harsh, is liberating. Because when you stop expecting others to fill the spaces in your life, you take full responsibility for filling them yourself. You stop waiting for someone to bring you peace, and you create it. You stop waiting for someone to guide your path, and you walk it. You stop waiting for someone to lift you, and you rise. The human heart longs for connection, but that longing becomes dangerous when it blinds you to your own strength. Too often, people hand over their happiness in exchange for companionship. They give away their power just to avoid being alone, and in that exchange, they become weaker, smaller, dependent. You cannot afford to do the same. You must protect your independence like a treasure, because it is the one thing that ensures your survival when everyone else is gone. Without it, you are fragile. With it, you are unstoppable. Loneliness is not the enemy. It is the mirror that shows you who you truly are when no one else is there. If what you see in that mirror feels weak, then you have work to do. You must build yourself into someone you can rely on, someone you can trust, someone you can follow without hesitation. That is the essence of true self-mastery. To become your own anchor, to become your own friend, to become the one person you know will never leave you, no matter what storms rage around you. This is why those who embrace solitude rise above the rest. They stop searching for strength in others and they start creating it within. They stop begging for encouragement and they begin encouraging themselves. They stop waiting for loyalty and they give loyalty to their own vision. While the world is distracted by shallow ties and temporary approval, they are building themselves into giants. Giants who do not bend when the crowd turns away. Giants who do not fall when the support fades. Giants who walk alone, yet walk stronger than those surrounded by many. And here lies the truth that will set you free. No one is your friend in the way you imagine. And that is not a curse, it is a gift, because it forces you to face the only person you can ever truly depend on, yourself. Once you understand this, you will no longer live in fear of who stays and who leaves. You will no longer be broken by betrayal or crushed by absence. You will walk into every battle with certainty because you know that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself. And that kind of strength makes you untouchable. When you become untouchable, something shifts inside you that most people will never understand. You no longer walk into rooms seeking approval. You no longer shape your choices around who might accept or reject you. You no longer measure your worth by how many people surround you. You stand as your own validation. You breathe as your own reminder. You live as your own proof. And in that state, the noise of the world cannot distract you because your strength does not come from them. It comes from within. The greatest trap you must escape is the need to be liked. That hunger keeps people weak, keeps them silent, keeps them bending into shapes that do not fit who they truly are. But when you realize no one is truly your friend, you free yourself from that hunger. You no longer chase being liked because you understand that approval is conditional and temporary. Today they praise you. Tomorrow they may turn against you. If your worth depends on their shifting opinions, you will always be unstable. But when your worth comes from within, it cannot be moved, no matter what the crowd says. Understand this, people respect strength, not dependence. They may pity weakness, they may entertain neediness, but deep down they only admire those who can stand alone. That is why you must stop trying to hold on to everyone. You must stop trying to prove yourself to those who do not see you. You must stop wasting energy on convincing others of your value. That energy belongs to your growth. That energy belongs to your vision. That energy belongs to your rise. And once you redirect it back to yourself, you will see how unstoppable you become. There is a purity in walking alone with conviction. It strips away distractions. It strips away noise. It forces you to confront your fears and to crush them with discipline. It forces you to face your doubts and silence them with action. It forces you to meet yourself fully without the mask you wear for others. And when you meet yourself, when you accept both your strength and your weakness, you no longer fear the absence of friends. You no longer fear being left behind because you know you are already enough with or without anyone else beside you. This is the strength that allows you to endure storms without breaking. This is the strength that keeps you moving when betrayal cuts deep. This is the strength that holds you steady when silence surrounds you. And this is the strength that transforms you into someone no one can control, no one can manipulate, no one can destroy. Because what can the world take from you if you need nothing from it? What can people withhold from you if you already carry it within yourself? What can betrayal do to you if your faith is not in them, but in your own resilience? So stand firm in this truth. No one is your friend in the way you wish, and that is the greatest advantage you have. It forces you to discover that you are enough. It pushes you to rise without applause. It drives you to become your own ally, your own guide, your own power. And once you reach that point, the world cannot break you. It can only watch as you walk forward, unshaken, unstoppable, and free. The reason most people never find real freedom is because they are still chained to the illusion of belonging. They keep waiting for someone to walk with them, to validate them, to reassure them that they are enough. But those chains are invisible traps. They disguise themselves as friendship, loyalty, and love, yet they tighten every time you depend on them to define who you are. The truth is harsh but liberating. No one is obligated to stay. No one is obligated to care. No one is obligated to save you. And once you accept that, you stop waiting. You stop clinging. You stop begging. You begin to rise. When you let go of expectation, you unlock an untouchable calm. You no longer panic when people drift away. You no longer crumble when promises are broken. You no longer bleed when support disappears, because you understand that every moment of absence is not a loss. It is a lesson. It shows you where not to lean. It teaches you where not to place your trust. And with every lesson, your foundation grows stronger, unshakable, unbreakable. Think about it. How many times have you given too much of yourself to people who gave you little in return? How many times have you silenced your own voice just to be accepted? How many times have you carried others while your own soul was collapsing? That is not strength. That is self-betrayal. And the more you betray yourself, the weaker you become. But the moment you turn that loyalty inward, the moment you honor your own worth with the same intensity you once gave to others, you begin to taste real power. Power is not loud. Power does not beg. Power does not chase. True power is stillness that cannot be shaken, confidence that cannot be broken, and discipline that cannot be seduced by weakness. This is what you gain when you release the illusion that someone else will complete you. This is what you gain when you stop asking for hands to lift you and instead build the strength to lift yourself. And when that power is yours, you will no longer walk this world seeking allies. You will walk as an unmovable force, commanding respect without saying a word. People may call it isolation, but it is not. It is clarity. It is focus. It is the sharpening of your soul. It is the burning away of everything unnecessary until only the purest version of you remains. And that version does not need to be surrounded because it stands whole on its own. That version does not crumble in silence because it thrives in its own presence. That version is not afraid of being abandoned because it knows it was never truly held by anyone to begin with. This is where transformation happens. When you stop relying on the temporary and anchor yourself in the eternal, when you stop searching for strength outside and find it waiting inside, when you stop expecting to be carried and discover that you are always capable of carrying yourself, that is when fear loses its grip on you. That is when doubt has no place to live. That is when nothing and no one can ever take your peace again. And once you reach this place, you do not simply survive, you dominate, you do not merely exist, you rise. You do not hope for freedom, you embody it. Because the moment you accept that no one is your savior, you finally become your own. The greatest deception you must break free from is the idea that you are incomplete without others. This belief poisons your strength at its core. It convinces you that you need someone else to validate your existence, to give meaning to your journey, to make your victories matter. But the truth is, you were whole before anyone entered your life, and you will remain whole long after they are gone. The power you search for in their approval has always been waiting within you, silent and patient, ready to be awakened the moment you stop looking outward and start claiming it inward. You cannot rise while begging for recognition. You cannot lead while hoping to be liked. You cannot conquer while fearing rejection. Every time you bend yourself to be accepted, you cut away pieces of your soul. Every time you depend on someone else to define your value, you surrender the very crown you were born to wear. Stop giving away what is already yours. Stop expecting others to hand you what only you can claim. The moment you decide to be enough on your own, everything changes. Strength does not come from having a circle around you. It comes from being unshakable when the circle disappears. Confidence does not come from endless praise. It comes from standing firm when the world doubts you. Freedom does not come from belonging to a group. It comes from realizing that belonging to yourself is the only loyalty that can never be broken. You must see this clearly. People will come and go, but the relationship you have with yourself determines whether you rise or collapse when they leave. The mind loves to seek comfort in others because it fears silence. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is clarity. It is in silence that you meet the rawest version of yourself, stripped of expectations, stripped of noise, stripped of masks. And in that stillness, you find the truth. You never needed them. You never needed their approval, their validation, their hand to hold. What you needed was courage. The courage to face yourself, the courage to trust yourself, the courage to rely on no one but yourself. That courage is the fire that will separate you from the crowd. It will burn away weakness. It will melt fear. It will destroy doubt. And from that fire, you will rise unrecognizable. Not because you became someone new, but because you finally allowed your true self to stand without apology. No one will understand this transformation at first because it will make them uncomfortable. They will see your independence as defiance, your self-respect as arrogance, your discipline as coldness. But their misunderstanding is not your burden. Their opinions are not your chains. Their judgments are not your limits. You are not here to live chained to illusions. You are here to cut every rope that ties you to dependence. You are here to stand untouchable, with or without applause. You are here to live with a strength that cannot be borrowed, a peace that cannot be stolen, and a fire that cannot be extinguished. And when you finally grasp this truth, when you finally claim this power, you will see that losing people was never the tragedy. It was the gift, because it forced you to awaken the only person who was always meant to save you, yourself. When you stop expecting others to fill your emptiness, you begin to discover the vastness of your own strength. The hunger you once directed outward, hoping someone was satisfied with their presence, now becomes the fire that drives your growth. You stop wasting energy chasing after those who cannot carry you, and you start pouring that energy into building the version of yourself that can never be broken. That shift is the turning point, the moment you step out of weakness and into unshakable authority over your life. Dependence breeds fear. It chains you to uncertainty because the moment someone else controls your sense of worth, you live at the mercy of their actions. One word, one choice, one absence can crush you. That is not freedom. That is imprisonment disguised as connection. But when you choose to rely on no one but yourself, fear dissolves. You no longer tremble at the thought of abandonment. You no longer shrink under rejection. You no longer wait for someone to choose you because you have already chosen yourself. There is nothing more powerful than self-respect. It is the armor that shields you from manipulation, the foundation that keeps you steady when the ground shifts, the weapon that cuts through lies and illusions. Without it, you will always be vulnerable. With it, you become untouchable. Respect for yourself is not about arrogance. It is about recognizing your value so deeply that you refuse to bargain it away for temporary comfort or shallow approval. When you carry this respect within you, no betrayal can weaken you, no loss can destroy you, no rejection can define you. The world will test this strength. It will strip away false allies. It will expose fragile bonds. It will break the illusions you once held close. At first, this feels like cruelty, but in truth, it is purification. Every person who leaves, every mask that falls, every bond that cracks is carving you into something sharper, clearer, stronger. Life is not punishing you. It is preparing you. It is teaching you how to stand alone so that you may rise higher than you ever imagined. Do not fight this process. Embrace it. Let the silence teach you discipline. Let the emptiness teach you self-reliance. Let the loss teach you resilience. Every lesson is a gift. Every wound is a teacher. Every absence is an opportunity to grow. Instead of asking why no one stood beside you, ask how much stronger you became because you had to stand on your own. Instead of resenting those who failed you, be grateful they revealed the truth before they could drag you deeper into weakness. You are not abandoned. You are awakened. You are not isolated. You are being rebuilt. You are not unloved. You are being guided back to the only love that cannot betray you, the love you cultivate for yourself. And when that love takes root, when it grows deep and unshakable, you will never again look at others as saviors. You will see them as additions, not necessities. You will welcome them, but never depend on them. You will walk beside them, but never lean on them. That is freedom. That is power. That is the life of someone who has finally understood that no one is your friend. Not because the world is cruel, but because the only friend you truly need has been waiting inside you all along. The moment you embrace that you are your own foundation, you stop living like a beggar at the gates of other people's approval. You no longer stretch your hands outward, waiting for scraps of validation, because you finally realize that everything you thought you needed was already inside you. This shift is more than freedom. It is rebirth. It is the death of dependence and the birth of sovereignty. And sovereignty means you no longer live at the mercy of people who can walk away. You become whole, and wholeness cannot be abandoned. Most people live like shadows, chasing connections to feel alive. They tie their worth to how many people stand beside them, how many friends echo their thoughts, how many hands clap when they succeed. But all of that is fragile. The applause fades, the voice is quiet, the hands disappear, and when they do, most people collapse because their identity was built on a foundation that never belonged to them. You cannot make this mistake. You must build your identity on rock, not sand. That rock is self-mastery, self-respect, and the unshakable conviction that you alone are enough. When you know you are enough, everything changes. Rejection no longer feels like death. It becomes redirection. Loneliness no longer feels like emptiness. It becomes clarity. Failure no longer feels like shame. It becomes wisdom. Nothing can take you down because nothing outside you holds the keys to your worth anymore. This is the core of true strength. It is not about dominating others. It is not about proving yourself to the world. It is about standing so firmly in your own value that the world cannot take it away no matter how hard it tries. But do not mistake this strength for isolation. It is not about pushing people away or refusing love. It is about never needing it to survive. It is about knowing that companionship is a choice, not a crutch. It is about choosing connections from a place of strength, not desperation. When you live this way, your relationships transform. They are no longer built on neediness, manipulation, or fear of loss. They are built on truth. And truth is the only bond that can last. Every trial you face is training you for this. Every loss, every betrayal, every disappointment has been sharpening you, chiseling away at the illusions you clung to. Life has been showing you over and over that nothing outside you is permanent and no one is guaranteed to stay. It has been stripping you down not to punish you, but to free you, to remind you that you were born whole and you will remain whole regardless of who enters or exits your path. The deepest peace you will ever feel comes when you finally stop fighting this truth, when you stop begging others to complete you and instead embrace your own completeness, when you stop seeking comfort in the fragile hands of others and instead find it in the fortress of your own soul. That is when you become untouchable. That is when nothing can break you. That is when you rise not as someone waiting to be saved, but as the one who saves themselves. This is the life you were meant to live, free, strong, unstoppable, a life where no one holds power over your worth and no absence has the strength to break you. Because you finally see clearly no one is your friend, but you are more than enough to walk this path alone and conquer everything in your way. Most people never realize how much of their strength they have surrendered until everything they leaned on is gone. They spend years handing out pieces of themselves, fragments of energy, attention, loyalty, and love, without ever asking if what they give is returned. And when silence replaces support, when absence replaces presence, they feel shattered. But that pain is not the end. It is the revelation. It is the moment you see clearly that the foundation you built on others was never stable, and that the only true stability you will ever find must come from within. The fear of standing alone is what keeps most people trapped in weakness. They cling to false connections because solitude terrifies them. They confuse being surrounded with being valued, yet deep inside they know the truth. Many of those around them would vanish the moment convenience fades. That realization hurts, but it also liberates. Because when you finally embrace solitude, you discover it is not emptiness, it is power. In solitude, there are no masks to wear, no roles to play, no expectations to meet. There is only you, raw and unfiltered, and the strength you cultivate in that space is unbreakable. Every disappointment becomes fuel. Every betrayal becomes clarity. Every loss becomes freedom. You stop seeing endings as punishment and start seeing them as doors to higher ground. The people who leave are not your enemies. They are the proof that you no longer need them. They are the evidence that you have grown beyond the limits of their presence. They are the confirmation that your journey requires strength they cannot give and loyalty they cannot offer. And the beauty of this realization is that it makes you unstoppable. You no longer hesitate. You no longer beg. You no longer dilute your vision to keep fragile bonds alive. Instead, you rise with focus sharper than ever before. You begin to protect your energy with fierce discipline. You no longer allow your worth to be debated because it is not up for negotiation. You no longer measure yourself by who stays or who leaves because your value has nothing to do with their decision. This level of strength may intimidate others. They may call you cold, distant, or unapproachable. But what they cannot see is that your strength is not against them. It is for you. It is the shield that protects your soul, the fire that drives your purpose, the anchor that keeps you steady, no matter how violent the storms become. You do not owe weakness to anyone. You do not owe pieces of yourself to anyone. The greatest gift you can give this world is the fullest, strongest version of yourself, and that version cannot exist while you are chained to dependence. When you master this truth, you will never again fear being alone. You will never again collapse when someone leaves. You will never again hand your crown to someone unworthy of wearing it. Instead, you will rise with a confidence that radiates in silence, a strength that speaks without words, a presence that demands respect without asking for it. This is the transformation you are being called to make, the evolution from dependence to dominance, from fragility to fortitude, from illusion to truth. And the truth is simple yet liberating. No one is your friend, and that is exactly why you are free.